Today, I wish to discuss pain and swelling, and how CBD impacts it, but also how our organic endocannabinoids affect discomfort, and how the modulation of swelling is really only a natural process that all has to do with cyclooxygenase enzymes and also very specific stuff called endocannabinoids. Let's talk first in what inflammation really is. Irritation is merely a response to almost any trauma or almost any immune event within your body, where your body necessitates an immune response. Okay, we've two different types, acute and serious. Acute may be the kind that you almost certainly find out about. When you bump your elbow, when you get a scratch or a lower, and it gets swollen. It gets swollen and reddish, that's simple swelling. That's basic cytokine activity triggering immune cells to combat a given trauma. Then, we have chronic inflammation. It's the swelling that's occurring in our body constantly, really. It's constantly happening. Often, it's worse than other times. This has to perform with the fact that our cells become truly sick and we trigger an immune response, and then it cascades into this vicious circle, where the immune system responds even more, and even more, and even more, yielding to chronic swelling. Now, normally, when we think of fighting swelling, we think of an anti-inflammatory. When we discuss anti-inflammatory processes in your body, we think about something known as a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, aspirin, ibuprofen, things like that. Yes, those do combat inflammation. Here's how they actually work. They act upon something known as the cyclooxygenase enzymes, COX1 and COX2. Cyclooxygenase enzymes are a way to actually slow down inflammation, definitely, by inhibiting them. The problem is, as you probably already know, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories are hard on the gut. The reason they're hard on the gut is because they stop the production of both COX1 and COX2. One of those cyclooxygenase enzymes we need to protect our gut. You see, we actually need a little bit of inflammation in our gut. Anyway, I digress. I want to talk more about how CBD directly affects inflammatory responses within the body. We have these things inside our physique referred to as endocannabinoids. They're endogenous cannabinoids. Frequently, when we think about cannabinoids, we think about only something that's via cannabis, something that's unlawful, or something that is really an exogenous thing to arrive. The reality is, we've endogenous cannabinoids. They're referred to as endocannabinoids and they possess an anti-inflammatory influence on your body. They are a very healthy thing. They're an all-natural byproduct of fatty acid rate of metabolism, contrary to popular belief. These endocannabinoids are by natural means occurring associates of what are referred to as the eicosanoid families. If you watched a few of my other video tutorials, you understand that I discuss eicosapentaenoic acid, often known as EPA. If you have ever bought a seafood oil tablet or any sort of omega-3, you've found eicosapentaenoic acid, or EPA, on the label, an anti-inflammatory fats that modulates swelling and does a variety of other things in the body. Well, these endocannabinoids certainly are a by natural means occurring person in that superlatives. Within that family, we've a lot of different things that modulate inflammation. In this particular case, endocannabinoids are derived from long-chain fatty acids. They are a byproduct of the breakdown of long-chain fatty acids, meaning it's a very natural process to have cannabinoids in our systems. What ends up happening is they're produced by fat. Then, when they're actually needed, when they're actually solicited to be used for something, they're released by the neurons. We have these fats that are broken down, and we end up with these overall cannabinoids, but they don't get released until the neurons say so. The neurons actually see some inflammation or they see something, they're going to release more of these to modulate it. It's this natural progression of fats communicating with neurons to ultimately discharge these endocannabinoids. Let's have it a bit further to comprehend how this works. Today, that means we must figure out cytokines. You look at, cytokines happen to be signaling proteins that in the end recruit inflammation to occur. Cytokines will trigger certain immune cells release a inflammation or actually also reduce irritation, when given the proper circumstances. Cytokine activity isn't always terrible. We do want some cytokine activity. If we got rid of all the cytokines, we wouldn't ever have inflammation or it wouldn't ever be able to be modulated up or down, leaving us in a really sticky situation. When we get down to CBD actually modulates the cytokine production. It gets results on cytokine development with very certain cells though. Since we don't want to remove all of the cytokine activity, we want to remove it with specific stuff. So, very particular immune cells that overactive that will be causing inflammation in our joints at all times or causing inflammation in our brain, they may become decreased with the instance of CBD becoming in the equation, simply because right now we have all the stimulation of these natural endocannabinoids to reduce that inflammation. There's one specific area of the physique that decreases cytokine activity that's exceptionally essential, and that's when it comes down to T helper cells. If you ever heard of T cells before, then you know that right now there are two types. There will be helper cells and there will be killer cells. The helper cells traveling around the body and they slap a label on anything that is potentially undesirable. That label permits the killer T cells to come across soon after and designate that to come to be killed. Basically, includes a label, and today the killer T cell runs in advance and it kills it, so they're employed in tandem, a two-portion equation below. What CBD will is it restrictions the cytokine activity of the helper T cells, signifying they aren't as activated in an undesirable way. Assuming you have overactive T cells, T helper cells, they will run around the body, performing rampant, slapping a label on everything, triggering inflammation and triggering killer T cells to come around and begin an attack on things that won't need to be attacked. You can view how this can bring about an enormous amount of chronic irritation leading to joint pain, mind fog, digestive discomfort, all sorts of different things. To help this get in really clear, I'm going to break down one specific kind of endocannabinoid. Now, there are a multitude of them, but this particular one is very common and it's probably the most well-researched. It's known as an endomida. An endomida is definitely a naturally occurring cannabinoid. It's a endocannabinoid that, by using CBD oil, your body naturally creates even more of. Keep in mind, I've talked about this in other movies, but CBD does not react with the CBD1 and CB2 receptors. Okay? It does not do that like traditional cannabis would. It's not a recreational medication. What it can is it allows the body to effortlessly create extra of the endocannabinoids that happen to be very good. Endocannabinoids, like an endomida. Let's chat about how that essentially works. Not merely does CBD naturally boost an endomida in addition, it decreases the cytokine activity that could normally inhibit it. We're discussing the cytokine activity associated with tumor necrosis factor 1 alpha, TNF1A, very common in the world of inflammation. By reducing TNF1A, we reduce the body's ability to fight off production of an endomida. By reducing the activity of tumor necrosis factor 1 alpha, we also reduce the activity of aminohydrolase. This is a byproduct of fatty acid metabolism that can actually have a negative effect on overall endocannabinoid activity. Basically, all this means is, by reducing the cytokine activity of these two things, we are allowing endocannabinoids to do their jobs better, and we are allowing an endomida to come into fruition, and we create more of it. If you don't understand an endomida, it is extremely much so accountable for creating bliss in the body, reducing swelling in the joints, but also reducing swelling in the brain. It truly is referred to as the bliss item of your body, because that is the sensation that very best describes what an indomita will. In knowing that, we need to wonder, very well, how specifically does it do this? Well, it is because it holds the main element in order to switch off nuclear component kappa B, or at least help reduce it. Nuclear component kappa B is among the most generally researched inflammatory substances in the body. It can be simply the master control swap, when it comes right down to swelling. If we are able to reduce nuclear component kappa B, we are able to reduce some of the DNA consequence of inflammation within our body system. You find, if nuclear component kappa B is often elevated, it can modification our DNA to be utilized to having high levels of inflammation. So genuinely, an indomita is among the keys to basically eliminating this trouble where our anatomies are getting so familiar with inflammation that we're merely adapting to be these inflamed creatures. It really is allowing our physique to carefully turn off that expert switch as it pertains down to inflammation. Actually, it is carrying out this all without ever activating CBD1 or CBD2 receptors within the body. I will say that again. It does not affect CBD1 or CBD2 receptors in the body. A lot of marketing collateral out there will tell you that CBD oil does directly affect one of the CBD receptors. Not that case at all. All CBD oils do the same thing. They naturally increase the production of our pre-existing endocannabinoids. Very, very critical. I know this was very in-depth. I was talking about cytokines. I was talking about all kinds of inflammatory markers in the body, but it's important you know that, by the end of the day, it is a solid way to modulate and reduce inflammation in the body without acting about the cyclooxygenase enzymes that are going to destroy your gut and result in a lot of additional damaging points in your life. As always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and put the notification on so you don't miss anything. If you like these CBD videos, let me know down in the comment sections below. And click the link in the description below to try CBD products that will assist you with your problem.